All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. And of course, thanks for subscribing. We truly appreciate it. We're back at it with the next FSD Beta build, 10.69.2.3. We're going to take it out for a quick spin on our test paths, see how it does, and see how it compares to the previous version. And of course, we're going to give it an FSD Beta score and rating to be able to compare and contrast different versions and different builds in a quantitative way. So let's just get started right now. A little bit of rain today, still decent traffic for the morning time, but let's just see what FSD Beta can do. I'll engage right now. For those new to the video, I do let off my hands off the yoke for turns because the yoke is a little bit temperamental and sensitive and can pose an issue when it comes to disengaging if you have your hand on the yoke while it's turning. Speed limit is at the limit. FSD profile is set to average. Everything else is pretty straightforward. Let's see what kind of improvements the Tesla team has been able to make to this FSD Beta build. Coming up to our first turn, gets over into the shoulder a little bit. Still not the right behavior, I don't think. A little choppy on the turn, but very aggressive on the exit of the turn. So that was pretty cool. Very aggressive, very, very wide here. Very, very wide. Keep a look at that left repeater here, that right repeater, I should say. Still putting on the turn signal when the yoke turns to a certain degree, but still relatively comfortable, keeping up to the limit that I've already set. I want to do another video after this to show how I think FSD Beta should be driving these particular paths, what's good and what's bad, to give you guys a frame of reference. But so far it's decent. Nothing too dissimilar, nothing too regressive so far. First unprotected left here. Let's see what happens. Stop sign here at the actual limit line. And then there's a creep limit coming up. A little indecisive. Just trying to go in front of this van. Not a good decision right here. So decision making wise, not very good. This car is turning, the other car is turning. Now it's free to go. I'm going to give it some accelerator to go. So not very good on that one in terms of decision making and my level of comfort with its decision making. Definitely wanted to jump out before a truck was coming or a van was coming. Not the right move. We should have waited a little bit longer, a little bit more patience, I think, and then go. A bump up to 30. And shout out to the commenter who pointed out that I can just flick the wheel and it'll go 5 miles an hour. Not the most intuitive, especially coming from the previous gen Model S and Model X with the stalk, which was a little bit more elegant. Slows down a little bit here in anticipation of the cars. Not very comfortable. But yeah, just not as elegant as the previous gen in terms of that. Probably more apt for the minimalist style of the Model 3, but for Model S and X, it definitely is a little bit of a step back in terms of being able to manipulate the speed. Braking still good. Visualizations seem the same, even though on AI Day it seemed that there was a newer version of the visuals, a more detailed, high fidelity version of the visuals. I don't think we got that in this particular release. Let's see what happens. Some of the common issues here is that it kind of biases towards the center line here and then starts to go this way when it gets towards this light. Let's see if that's still the case here. And it seems to be the case. So still an issue. I'm not sure what it's doing here. It's not making a turn, so I'm not sure why it's even getting that far out. And it probably won't beat this car that's going straight. So I'm not sure what it's intending to do here, if it thinks that this is a turn-only lane. But now we're ready to go, and we're kind of racing this car. And I'm going to take over here because it just kind of wanted to race this car, and that wasn't the right decision here. So again, just poor decision-making on this one, and the level of comfort is a little bit lower as a result. Here is where it should have been looking to pass, like the cars behind us are passing this car that's turning. This is where it should have passed, and another car is trying to pass. So no, I'm not gonna take over again. So lots of takeover so far. Not really liking that. Train tracks here. People try to grab my videos and put them out of context for the train track stoppage. We weren't in danger, but that is something for Tesla to look into in terms of adhering to sort of the rules of not stopping on a train track. Turn coming up here. Let's see what happens. Pretty good job. Nice and smooth. Good mile an hour. I like that. That was a good one. Coming up to our first stop here, first end of our trip. All right, we've completed it. Now let's move on to the next part. Continue trip. I'll resume. Keeping an eye on the closeness of the curbs when it makes the turns. That one wasn't bad, and a good mile an hour. So pretty good in terms of confidence level and comfort. Always stop. Let's see what happens. Okay. A little hesitant, gonna give it some accelerator to go, and goes. Always stops are pretty tricky. You're effectively yielding the right of way to everyone, and you have to kind of coordinate and make sure, you know, everyone gets a chance to go and you go at the right time. So I understand the complexity there, and I like the caution there, that it doesn't try to just jump out there. It takes some precaution and caution in being able to make a decision and when to turn. So that was good. A little bit over the line there on the left. Now starting to turn right to go left, which again, I'm not a fan of. Waiting its turn. Let's see what happens. And this is kind of how the yoke is right now, so you don't want to really have a hand on it to be able to disturb that motion. And does a pretty good job, a little wide, as you saw on that turn. Could have tucked it a little better, but not terrible. Not too terrible in terms of level of comfort. All right, here it needs to get into the right side of the lane. So it kind of like the logic is mixed up. On that side, it went to the right when it shouldn't have. This side, it should go to the right now. And it's not getting there. And it wants to go straight through a turn. And then it turns at the last minute. Not good. Let me flag that one because that was pretty dangerous. That car was coming on the pass. I couldn't get the camera up in time. And then it decided to change at the last minute. So definitely not a good decision. I'm gonna stop here. Pedestrian is here. It seemed like it wanted to come to a complete stop, but I didn't really know. And there is a conditional turn signal here that I don't know if it's going to adhere to. Well, it's not going left anyway, so I guess it doesn't matter, but it kind of wanted to creep up and make that turn, so that wasn't good. And it's kind of slowly hesitating to make this turn. So not off to a good start with 69.2.3. I'm not sure what tweaks and adjustments they made. The release notes seem largely the same. Lots of detail to get into, but just experiencing the drive itself, a little bit regressive in some of the decision making that it's making right now. I don't think it would have hit that person. I think it would have impeded their path to cross the street while I tried to make that right turn, and that wasn't the right decision to make. If that person started to move, it definitely would have stopped, put on the brakes. No issues in terms of hitting pedestrians and my vast experience with FSD all the way back to its infancy. Nice navigation, tight quarters here. Always stop again. We're the first one here. No one else is around, so now it should just go. Very good. So a little bit of an improvement here. A lot more confidence pulling out when it realized that no one else was at the stop sign or no one else was at the intersection. So that was very good. And that was much improved over the last one where it was still a little bit hesitant, sort of going halfway through and then trying to proceed forward. So that was good. A little indecisive as you see the yoke moving and flailing, a little bit indecisive on what it wants to do here. Again, just contributing to the level of comfort. So again, we'll give it a score based on confidence level, based on comfort and decision making. And we'll add some additional criteria as we go along. But right now, that's kind of the mainstay. I'm going to bump it up because we got some cars here behind us. I want to just speed things along. People are trying to get to where they need to go in the morning. Don't want to hold them up with FSD Beta. Luckily, it's not raining too hard or FSD Beta would disengage. It's a nice light rain that FSD Beta can handle. Here we go. Always stop, yielding the right of way accordingly, coordinating with other cars. It's going to be tricky for FSD Beta to solve in full. Now it's our turn to go. Takes off nicely. Again, acceleration for the takeoff from an intersection is really, really good on this one. Really, really good. Blind sweeping corner coming up here, or turn up here. Coming in pretty hot. Still takes it. Big pothole, it's not going to avoid that. Actually, it did. Look at that. Somehow, some way. All right, now remember, I will remember. It's going to slow down here. That's going to be my signal to also slow down because the speed limit, the speed mapping of the maps are somehow messed up here where it takes it way too fast. I'm going to slow down. Now it goes to 50. I'm going to slow down to 25. Lots of debris from the storm. We'll see if that impacts how FSD Beta drives. Takes its time very nicely right here. Good speed, good mile an hour. I'm going to just pop to 25. Just keep it nice and smooth. Foot hovering over the brake. Hard to keep a hand on the yoke as the yoke is turning in these different degrees, but I will keep it compliant. And foot over the brake is the best method to intervene on FSD Beta as you're riding in the car, as you're doing these drives over trying to grab a wheel or a yoke. Primarily, I'm also going to be taking my hand off the yoke as you see me do it. Excellent job here. As you see me do it, just to also show what the car is doing versus what I'm doing, especially when the yoke starts to move indecisively. It's kind of hard to understand. So that's why I have my hands off the yoke as much as possible without impeding the safety of everything. Again, 50 miles an hour, definitely not a good look. Could definitely find ourselves in those rocks, but FSD Beta is rock solid. A marvel of modern technology that Tesla has done here. And yes, we have criticisms, we have critiques, we have things that we say that can make it better. but that does not negate where they are, the leaders, the forefront of this technology. And anyone else who says otherwise has not proven otherwise. They've not solved this problem that Tesla's trying to solve. So good job, Tesla. This is incredible. There are some nitpicks, there are some issues, but incredible nonetheless. So don't misconstrue my criticism or anyone else's criticism who has it with being down on Tesla. It's definitely just a constructive criticism. Squirrel on the road doesn't really like to slow down for the squirrel, but luckily the squirrel was pretty swift there. Definitely got to fix the speed limit mapping across the board. I've been in neighborhoods now driving an FSD Beta where the mile an hour changes to 50 miles an hour somehow, some way, 50 miles an hour, and that is also not good. So not sure what's happening with the maps, the map data, but we definitely want to try to rectify that. See what happens here. Puts the turn signal on. Now we're coming up to some parked cars where it typically likes to stray far to the right, way too close to the cars. I may disengage if there's cars here. If not, I'll just see what it does. Definitely not a good thing to do. This is horrible behavior right here. Again, just the negatives. Very, very wide, extremely wide, to the point where if a cop was here, they would probably let us know something. Drop down to 20 here, because pedestrians typically walk here. Let it go all the way around this time. Foot scarily over the brake. Very, very hot. Very, very dangerous there. So I'm gonna pull out on that one. I'll flag that one. And that was definitely not a good look. Combination of the rain, the wet, and I think maybe my tires a little bit as well. Tires are a little bit worn here. So definitely not good, not a good look. Again, using that emergency pedal, that dead pedal, if you will, in the brake to stop and prevent a situation from happening right there. But typically the last version, it could do that. This one, it kind of slid a little bit and I had to put the brakes on just to be safe. So not a good look there. Tesla should definitely factor in the traction, and I'm sure they do, but they should factor in the traction when they make maneuvers and speed so that they don't have a situation. So glad thing we avoided that. Most autonomous cars that you see in testing have a big red button for stopping. That's effectively what the brake pedal will serve for your normal car that doesn't have that big button. And so that's it. All right, so incident avoided. Could have maybe hit the curb potentially just because it was sliding and I felt the traction slipping there. So not a good look, but again, I'm not gonna make excuses. All right, so there we go. Our first drive, our first two passes with FSD Beta 10.69.2.3. Not the greatest experience, not as good as last in full, but there were some parts that were good. So let's give it a score, right? Let's rate this particular version and see how it did. So in terms of level of comfort, my level of comfort was about a 6. It went down, I think, maybe even a 5. I'll call it a 5. I think the level of comfort was about 5. Poor decision making led to that. In terms of decision making, I will also give it a 5. Not good at all in terms of some of the decisions you decided to make. Trying to go ahead of a pedestrian and make a right turn on a red light. Trying to make maneuvers that didn't seem like logical maneuvers. Weaving from the center line to the right line. Things like that. And then any other area where I had to sort of intervene and take over. So I think those were primarily poor decisions. The last incident where we sort of slid, I think that was a technical issue where it didn't keep into consideration the traction of the car. All right, in terms of an overall safety score, I think this one also gets a 5, gone down a bit because of the poor decision making that it made me feel a little unsafe. So safety score goes down a little bit here with this particular build. All right, and in terms of confidence, I felt like the car was really confident, so I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10. And I think it was pretty confident on a lot of occasions. In some instances, maybe overly confident in some of the maneuvers that it was attempting to do. But I overall felt comfortable in the confidence that it had, especially when we talk about accelerating from an intersection, knowing that it was its turn, committing to the acceleration and the path that it had planned. So I thought that was pretty good. I'm gonna go ahead and average these up after we take a couple drives and give it a letter sort of grade type of score, but I'm using these individual criterias, this out of 10 score right now, just to give it a first drive, second drive, third drive maybe score, and then give it a final grade for the overall build. And I'll give my summary of what 69.2.2 was in the next video. But let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you got 69.2.3. Let me know your experience with it. Obviously, we had rain conditions, light rain conditions, still wet ground. All factors to take into consideration, not optimal for FSD Beta, but something that's realistic in the real world. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Until the next time, enjoy your day and enjoy your Tesla.